Hey, Nikki Brown here. No matter where you are and no matter what part of the world you're in, I hope that you're having a good day. So I got triggered yesterday. Somehow we started talking about basically some of the inconsiderate things people do. And I remember, we started talking about how certain people will, if they're awake, they feel like everybody else in the house is supposed to be awake. And I have a relative who used to do that to me. And even if I would go out, say I went out the night before, although this person obviously went out when they were younger and I'm sure wanted to get their rest, there's a certain age group of people that feel like you should be up and moving around by a certain time. And they don't believe in you staying in bed past a certain time. Whether you've gotten adequate rest or not, they just think it's about the time because that's how they were conditioned to think. And so they project that onto other people. So no matter how late I came in, she would be up at 6 o'clock in the morning on the phone talking loud. Then by 8 o'clock, she would be, pushing the door open, vacuuming, turning the lights on in the room. And that's very inconsiderate. Again, we need adequate rest. And just because you're up and awake and alert does not mean that other people have to be with you doing that. And I remember talking to somebody recently and they said they do that to their child. And I was like, oh, because if I'm up, everybody got to be up. That's selfish, right? I also had an ex that would do the same thing. When he was getting ready for work, he would flip the lights on, make all these noise. And I'm like, if I have the consideration for you to quietly get myself prepared and leave out of the room to make sure that I don't disturb your sleep, why can't you do the same thing? Because again, some people just don't want, if they're not resting, they don't want you to rest. And once somebody wakes me up, I can't go back to sleep. So anyway, my sciatic pain is, I don't know what triggered it. I do have a manual labor position. And also I did some Pilates last week. And it seems like around that time frame, which was a week ago tomorrow, which is Wednesday, today's Tuesday, the pain has been getting worse every day. So yesterday I had a really bad episode with it. I'm still in pain right now. But anyway, I was a little irritated and annoyed yesterday. And I realized one of the things that is irritating and annoying me, right? I started thinking about, like, my parents used drugs, right? And one was I guess they were both functioning, but one was kind of more in the street and the other one wasn't, right? And one of them used to sleep around for money. And so with the position that I'm in now, people feel like, oh, you should just have a man. Like a man is just going to fix it, right? And I totally disagree, right? I would like someone that I have a connection with, that I'm compatible with, that I can have good conversation with. And for men who are not like that, they try to gaslight you and say, oh, well, you're just never going to get that. And if I don't get that, that's fine. But I'm also not going to put up with foolishness. Like, one of my coworkers was like, yeah, I had to tell my wife the other day that she's selfish. Now, 9 times out of 10, he's not going to leave his wife, and that's not what this is about. But just thinking back to some of the relationships that I've had, I've ended relationships because I've dealt with some selfish people, right? I've done almost everything I can to be the opposite of what my parents were. they went to college and didn't finish, so I made sure I finished, right? And even went on to get a master's degree. But then what happens is when you're in society, I remember, and I've told this story before, but I went to Kelly Services. Kelly Services always was able to help me find something in the past. But since I had this master's degree, it seemed more challenging, right? We went months and months and months without finding anything. Finally, I got an interview as a part-time cashier at a credit union in Cary, North Carolina. The young lady who interviewed me was the same nationality I am. And she gave feedback to the recruiter at Kelly Services. She basically said, because I have a master's degree and she does not, she was afraid that I would take her job and that I wouldn't stay at that job, right? And so in my mind, it was like, so I can't eat because I have a master's degree. And it's like, when I was in like 8th grade, high school, we were taught, that if you don't at least have a bachelor's degree, you're not going to be able to get a job. And we've seen that come to fruition because a lot of jobs now won't hire you if you don't have at least a bachelor's degree. So I thought, taking it a step further, not that I would have at least be able to get something decent, right? But the reality is a lot of jobs will hire you for entry level, but they make it more challenging for you to move up. In essence, they make it hard for you to eat, right? That's how I look at it. So I can't eat because other people are insecure or intimidated. They don't see me as adding value and being an asset. They see me as someone who could take their job. I experienced this at DHL. Right? They would say, oh, well, I'm a supervisor and I don't have a degree, or why did you try to come and take over our industry? These are the type of comments that I would hear from supervisors, right? And then when I would get in there and learn everything quickly, it was like, oh, how did you learn that so fast? How did you, catch on so quickly? I'm a fast learner, right? Even, in another position I had at the airport, it was like, oh, you won't be able to do this because it's going to take you a while to learn it. And someone taught me and I picked it up and had to, just keep repeating the process in order to remember what it was. And then I taught everybody else on the team how to do it. Because for me, why would you not want other people on the team to know how to do this thing? Because when you're not around, we need to be able to know how to do it. Right? To me, it makes no sense to keep this away. But again, because people are intimidated, and insecure, they feel like, I don't want to teach this person how to do my job because then they'll be able to take over my job. It's so ridiculous that people think that somebody's going to take something away from them that they already have. Right? And so this is the same thing that's going on. It's like, I don't want you to do this position because I'm afraid. Or, now that I'm a certain age, oh, well, you won't be able to learn it because it's going to be too hard because, you're just a certain age. It's so ridiculous. And then people will try to make you seem like when you're not where they think you should be financially, or you're in a position where you're not able to do certain things, they feel like, oh, what's wrong with you? You're lazy. You just don't want to do this. You just don't want to do that. Right after I had sciatica and I started to heal, I wasn't even fully healed. I had 3 jobs. Then I was down to 2 jobs, right? Then I just end up with 1 job. And the reality is a lot of these jobs are paying 16, 17, 18, even if it's $20 an hour. In this economy, and I'm not blaming it on the economy, but in this economy, $20 an hour is not enough money, right? That's about, depending on what type of deductions you have coming out of your check, that's like $550, $600 a week, maybe a little bit more if you're lucky. If you're not making at least $1,000 a week where you can pay your rent, out of that 1 check and still have money left over, you're probably not doing so well in America. You understand what I'm saying? You need at least 2 incomes. And again, people just feel like, oh, you should just pick a man. You should just choose somebody. But why would I do that when, again, I've been in relationships with men who were intimidated or jealous of me, right? Mad because I had a degree, trying to prove a point, trying to belittle me. I'm not dealing with that. If I didn't deal with that from my parents, why would I deal with that from a man? That doesn't make sense, right? And to each his or her own. Other people do deal with it, but that's something that I choose not to do, right? And so, again, people will judge you and criticize you, not even understanding your story. Like, I was out of work for 1 year and 5 months. I didn't have anyone to help me. The job didn't want to pay me, right? And the little bit of money that I did get, that went toward the bills that I had to catch up on. And then again, like I said, after that, I had 3 jobs. But my body still could not physically handle that, right? It was too much. My body wasn't even fully healed yet. And so again, people are so quick to judge and make assumptions like, oh, you're just, I had a financial assessment done. When she calculated all my bills, she was like, you don't even you don't make enough, right? So how do you tell somebody, oh, you need to budget and save not enough? It's impossible. If their monthly if their monthly expenses exceed their income, what are they saving? And we're not talking about going above and beyond. We're talking about their rent, electric bill, phone bill. Some people, I paid water bill, electric bill was separate, gas bill was separate. How? And like I said, there are people who are in a position to help even. You know, people could start a GoFundMe. People could say, oh, well, you know, this person needs help. Even the church didn't help, right? Like, you know, we help people, but they didn't help me. And again, I'm not excusing, justifying. I'm not saying that somebody is obligated to help me, but this is America, right? We don't help each other. That's not how it's supposed to be. We're supposed to be living in communities. We're supposed to be living off of the land, and we are supposed to help one another. It is not supposed to be about bills and I have the best car or what, you know, all these material things. That's not what it's supposed to be about. But that's what it's become. And so, you know, people judge other people. Well, I have a better material thing than you do, so that means I'm better. But then again, because I have the confidence or the education, because I'm laughing and smiling all the time, regardless of what I'm going through, people are like, oh, why is she so happy? I'm married and I got this big old house and I got this money in the bank, and I'm not happy like that all the time. They don't like it. Because they don't understand it. Because they don't have true happiness. Because things, even a marriage, is not going to make you happy. You have to be happy within yourself. And then people think like, oh, well, you know, you've distanced yourself from your family. That's why you're going through this, or that's why you're in this situation. But my relatives, you know, when you have a relative who's on drugs, if you don't have money to give them, it becomes a problem. The last time, you know, I stayed with this particular relative, I got threatened to get kicked down the steps because I didn't have money to give this person so they could get high. So don't tell people, you don't know what somebody's situation is. And people, again, are always judging and assuming. And they have no idea what you've been through. And I don't even like to tell the story or share the story because it's irrelevant, really. Like, I need to do what I need to do, period. Regardless of what happened in the past. So it's kind of ridiculous, again, that we make assumptions, we judge and we criticize people, and we don't even understand or know what the situation is. One of my other coworkers was like, yeah, I left at 16 and I never went back. Obviously, it was toxic. Everybody didn't have a loving, nurturing parents. A lot of people had toxic parents, and some people think the toxicity is normal and acceptable, and they just deal with it. It's not, though. When you get beaten and abused with objects or threatened, this is not normal, because especially whatever the reason is, a lot of people take their frustrations out on people, like I said, because they can't get high, or because they don't have the money to pay this certain bill, or whatever the case may be, or because they're not with the other parent anymore. There's a lot of different reasons, and I hear a lot of people say, oh, my parents. Some people didn't have both parents. Some people had an absent parent. Some people's parent was deceased. Whatever the situation is, everybody's situation is different. So, I don't know. Those were just the thoughts that went through my mind. Making someone else wake up just because you're awake and you feel some kind of way because they're getting rest and you're not able to, or, because you're awake, that's selfish. It's mean. It's inconsiderate. And then somebody said, oh, well, they're probably up all night playing video games. But that's not always the case. Sometimes people can't sleep. If somebody has something on their mind and they can't, sleep, and then their body naturally just falls asleep at 8 o'clock in the morning, why are they not allowed to get that rest? Why are they being called lazy? Because somebody called you lazy? I don't like it. Because even despite some people's efforts, and we know historically these things have happened. People have, again, a lot of these jobs will give you an entry-level position, but they make it more challenging for you to move up, and in essence, making it hard for you to eat. We've seen movies about this. We've seen TV shows about this. But when it's actually happened to someone in real time, people say, oh, that person is crazy. That person just made it up. They don't know what they're talking about. Oh, all you got to do is this, or all you got to do is that. And you may have done that 1,000 times. You may have tried to do what they suggest. So you just look at them like, oh, okay. Yeah, all I got to do is go knock on the door. Okay. Knocking on the door is going to make them give me a higher pay. Okay. All right. Oh, all you got to do is say this and that. And you've said something to this person, and, when you say things to people, if they're intimidated or they're feeling insecure or they feel like they don't like you or whatever it is that they have going on in their mind, they say condescending things. They say things to belittle you, to make you, to try to make you feel like you're not enough, or you're beneath them, because that's how they feel. So they want you to feel how they feel. And people don't get it. It's just like, oh, you're just too scared to say anything. Or, if you just say something, or if you just do this, and if you just do that, when again, you may have done that. And that's not the reality. A lot of people think that things are, especially, the way that things used to be back in the day. Yeah, if you needed a job, you can just go knock on the door and say, hey, I put in the application, or can I put in the application, or y'all hiring? Everything is done on the internet now based on algorithms and keywords. It's not the same. And if you go and knock on the door, they'll say, oh, just apply on the internet. Go online. And even if you know somebody who knows somebody, that's not guaranteed to get you in either. Anyway, that was what was on my mind, and I wanted to share it because, You know, it's very disheartening that we are so disappointing, and we're just so judgmental, which is really mean to other people. It's like kicking somebody when they're down, saying, oh, well, you just need to do this and you just need to do that. And like I said, we don't help each other. Like, I've had a business for years. Some of these same people will see that I have a business, yet they don't want to support the business. That could easily, help a person out. But they don't want it. They're so afraid that you're going to do better than them. They're like, oh, I'm not supporting that business. I'm not buying anything. I walked into my cousin saying that one time. I'm not buying anything from her. And her daughter was like, well, why? She was like, I don't know. I'm just not buying anything from her. This is people's attitude. This is people's mentality. And then if they do buy something, sometimes they don't value it because it didn't come from Ulta or Sephora. It's not the popular brand. It may be better, right, than the popular brand, but it's not the popular brand. So it's as in their mind, it doesn't hold as much weight. It's not good enough. It's not as good. It's better, but it's not as good. And then when you tell the truth about certain things, people get mad. Because they don't want to face the reality of what is. Anyway, that was my 2 cents for today. As always, I love y'all. I hope everything is working out well for you. Until next time, love y'all. Mwah.